Aging isn't about slowing down, it's about stepping into your power. Welcome to Don't Let the Old Lady In, the podcast where we challenge outdated beliefs about getting older and embrace wellness, self-love, and confidence. Your host is Lorie Gardner, a registered nurse and nationally board-certified health and wellness coach, and she is your guide on this journey to vibrant, mindful living. Each episode will explore topics that nourish your mind, body, and spirit, and how to navigate health issues in the healthcare system as you age, so you can live with energy, purpose, and joy. Let's get started. Here's your host, Lorie Gardner. Welcome back to Don't Let the Old Lady In, the podcast that helps you age with confidence, radiance, and good health by combining the wisdom of experience with the power of the mind-body-spirit connection. I'm your host, Lorie Gardner, registered nurse and nationally board-certified health and wellness coach, and today's episode is one I feel deeply passionate about. Don't be too quick to make that medical decision, because when it comes to health, haste can be harmful. There is pressure, though, to decide quickly, isn't there? Have you ever sat in a doctor's office, heard a diagnosis, and felt like you had to make an immediate medical decision? Yes, it's so common. The doctor explains a treatment, maybe surgery, or a new medication, and you nod because you feel like you have to decide right then and there. But here's something I want you to remember. Unless it's an emergency, you almost never need to make a major medical decision on the spot. The medical system does move fast. Appointments are short, the information is overwhelming, and emotions run high. But taking even a day or two to breathe, to research, and to seek another opinion can make all the difference in your outcome and your peace of mind. Let's talk about the diagnosis process. There is a process because this is where everything starts. A diagnosis isn't always black and white. It's a little bit like a puzzle sometimes, made up of your symptoms, your history, physical exams, lab results, and sometimes imaging. But even with all that, misdiagnosis can happen, more often than people realize. Studies show that roughly 1 in 10 diagnoses are wrong or delayed. Why? Because symptoms can overlap, tests can be inconclusive, or information gets missed. So when you're told you have this condition, pause and ask, what led you to that diagnosis? What other possibilities were considered in terms of a diagnosis? Are there any tests that could confirm or rule it out? Don't be afraid to ask for clarity. You are not questioning your doctor's expertise. You're being an active participant in your health, getting as much education as you can in order to make a decision that's right for you. I can't say enough about the power of a second opinion. It literally sometimes can save a life or change the treatment course significantly. Just get that second opinion. Second opinion isn't about mistrust. It's about ensuring accuracy and alignment. Different doctors bring different experiences, training, and perspectives. You might be surprised how often a second physician offers an alternative approach or even a different diagnosis altogether. I saw the most amazing diagnoses being made when I worked as a nurse a way long time ago. I was at a hospital in the middle of the AIDS epidemic. And what I appreciated the most about what I saw in these very complex, I worked in a very high acuity, complex medical floor. And it wasn't about one doctor. One doctor would make an opinion, have a diagnosis, but he'd want to collaborate or she'd want to collaborate with somebody else. That's all this is too. Sometimes doctors work on their own and they're going at lightning speed and they're competent and so on and so forth. But if it's a complex case, I've had it where I've had a couple of doctors just liaise with some other specialists just to make sure they're on the right page. So it's really for your own benefit. And I often say, and I've been involved in cases where we're getting second opinions and we got a little pushback. No, sometimes a lot of pushback and a little bit of an attitude. Years ago, it was more often happening than it is now. I don't see it happening as much anymore because it's becoming more common. So know that it is common. But I always say if a doctor's really pushing you, being harsh about that, you might not have the right doctor. So here's a quick tip. If you're facing surgery, a new medication with serious side effects, or a diagnosis that feels uncertain, that's your cue to pause and get another opinion. You could also pause and call me, because as a nurse advocate, my job is to collect all the information and make sure that you get all the information you need to make a decision. And I do actually set up second opinions for people. So if you are really uncertain and it's hard to do this system alone and navigate everything, that's where I come into play. And don't worry about offending your doctor. You know what? As I said, good physicians respect patients who take ownership of their decisions. In fact, some may even suggest a referral themselves. And oftentimes your insurance company, you have to check, they may require a second opinion. So it's not uncommon anymore to do this. So really make sure you get that done. And really important to do your homework, but wisely, okay? I can't tell you how many frantic calls I get from people who just spent a lot of time on Mr. Google search and are just freaking out. So what I will say is the internet can be both a blessing and a curse. When you start reaching or researching your diagnosis, make sure you're using credible sources like Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, NIH, or other specialty organizations. Please avoid chat rooms or forums for the quote-unquote facts. Instead, use them down the road maybe when you might need some emotional support or hearing others' experiences. But remember, every case is unique. So those aren't reputable places necessarily. I'm not going to rule them out totally because I've had some pretty complex, rare cases where we might go on one of those just to see. What I've actually gone on to see is who the specialists are in that field. In a very rare disorder, you can get in these chat rooms and find out some really seriously good doctors. So that is definitely worth it. So basically what I tell my clients is gather information, but don't let it create fear. Let it create clarity. Make notes, write down your questions, and bring them to your next appointment. You're not being difficult. You're just being thorough. So again, I can't stress enough to have a care partner. If that's a care partner, like a friend, a family member who's really sharp and can maintain their emotions and work through all this with you, fantastic. You're blessed. If not, find a patient advocate like myself, because that person can be invaluable, because we take notes during appointments. We ask clarifying questions. I'm very much on encouraging my clients to be the sole interactor with the doctor because I want to create a doctor-patient healing relationship. So I try and stay back a little bit and have all the questions, and if anything's missed, I might come up and ask them. So I'm listening carefully. I'm taking notes. The other thing is we will ask additional clarifying questions or questions that the client or the patient has a hard time asking. We help research options. Treatment options can be found in so many different places. I don't have time to go into it, but that's what an advocate does. We track insurance coverage or pre-authorization requirements and ensure nothing falls through the cracks, because there's a lot of gaps in this healthcare system, and having a nurse advocate on your side is invaluable. And I've seen how much smoother the process becomes when someone is in your corner. You know, when you have that advocate in your corner and helping you navigate the system, coordinating all the specialists and understand your rights and your choices, and not being alone, just the peace level. I can't tell you how many times in the last 15 years of doing this work that I've had an initial phone call. I always offer a complimentary 15-minute initial phone call just to get the basic needs and decide if I'm the right person, the right advocate for them. And I would say 5 to 10% of the time, that person may or may not hire me, but they hang up the phone. And before they hang up the phone, there's like, I have such peace of mind just in this 15-minute conversation. So they knew they could possibly have somebody at their side, or they'd have more information to navigate whatever crisis they were going through better. So that's the ultimate. We provide peace of mind, and we have your back. So what's the cost of rushing, ladies? Let's be real. Making a quick medical decision can sometimes lead to regret. Maybe you later discover there was a less invasive option. Or you start a medication that causes side effects that outweigh the benefits. Or maybe you realize that the diagnosis wasn't quite right after all. That's why I say take your time when it's safe to do so. Time gives you perspective and power. Your health decisions deserve space, thought, and support. Now, if it's an emergency, then all bets are off. And that's when you really want an advocate. And I'll give you an example of something that was a family member, and to this day it astounds me. It happened many years ago, and this person had at the time we didn't know it. She was in a very low-tiered hospital, I'll put it that way. And she had what looked like a brain bleed. And I immediately said, get an ambulance, we're going out to the next closest hospital, which that's what most ERs will do if a case is out of scope. So we went to the next hospital, learned pretty quickly in a specialized MRI that this tumor was benign. It wasn't in the brain. It was right outside the brain. Anyway, short story. The surgeon came in. I'll open her up tomorrow, and I'm talking a craniotomy. Open her up, and we'll cauterize, which means, it was a very bloody tumor, and he wanted to just cauterize it, cut off the blood supply, and then close her up, and open her up the next day, and take it out. And my nurse advocacy and my RN registered nurse flags were flying all over the place, like, really? 2 surgeries? Back to back? 2 general anesthesias? Wow. So I knew, my gut was like, next. And short stories, we got a neurosurgeon at New York Weill Cornell. Amazing. And I'm talking to him on the phone, and we're setting it up, and there was a lot of complications, not with the medical part, but with the insurance. And he worked with me, his staff worked with me. This needed to be done like yesterday. So I got it all done, and I had to ask the question, Doctor, how come you can do this in one procedure, in one general anesthesia episode, and the doctor out here says 2? And he said, well, he can bill for 2 procedures. So I'm also in the middle of a case right now that just speaks to the overarching principle that I'm referring to here, which is the healthcare system is big business. And unless you know and have an insider by your side protecting you, then stuff can happen. So I want you to be empowered, and I want you to either get that education on your own or get with us, because you deserve the best care. And ladies, somebody said to me, asked me, how many times a day do I say, agent ain't for sissies? Because it ain't. And we have to be empowered and smart about what we do. So we're here for you, ladies.
And that's a wrap on today's episode.
Key takeaways.
What are our key takeaways? Remember, age is just a number.
So before you make your next medical decision, remember these steps. 1, pause. Don't rush unless it's truly urgent.
Share it with a friend.
2, understand the diagnosis. Ask how it was reached and what alternatives were considered.
You are strong.
Then what happens? Here's one thing I didn't mention. But what happens if I don't do anything?
Keep living boldly, loving yourself fully.
Number 3, research wisely. Use trusted resources and bring your notes. Get a second opinion, especially for major diagnoses or treatments. And lastly, involve a care partner advocate, because you know what? You deserve the support. So I'm going to tell you, you are the CEO of your health. Doctors are your consultants. They provide expertise, but you make the final call. You don't let the old lady in by surrendering your power out of fear or pressure, do you? No. Stay curious, stay calm, and make informed decisions that honor your body, mind, and spirit. Ladies, thank you again for listening today. I hope it was helpful. I hope sometimes one tidbit takes you remember when you're in the emergency room or you're in the middle of getting a diagnosis, and I hope this will have made the difference for you. And remember, you don't have to navigate the medical system alone. If you'd like a personalized guidance or advocacy support, visit healthlinkadvocates.com, where the team can help you make informed, confident choices about your care. Until next time, I'm Lorie Gardner, reminding you to stay empowered, stay radiant, and don't let the old lady in.